This is the one of the semi-geography questions, you can say. So that is directly asked over here. However, climate change and the sea level rise affecting the very existence of many island nations. Discuss with examples. So it is a short question of 10 marks in less than 150 words. You have to write it. So question is very direct. See how climate change and sea level rise affecting the very existence of many island nations. So dear, in this question, the keyword or the central theme is this climate change, and the result of that is the sea level rising. So what is to be required in this address? In the very first part, means introduction part, you can start your question from this climate change and the sea level rise factor. So you can highlight some of the report mentioned by some international organizations which highlight this issue, or if you don't have such type of data with you, you can directly write what is climate change and how the sea level is rising because of that. Like in a climate change, you can directly write this definition. When the quality of the natural climate environment undergoes degradation, we called it as environmental degradation, and climate change is one of the facet of that environmental degradation. Well, our climatic pattern on a global scale undergoes changing. Either it should be a rise of the temperature or fall down of the temperature at some places, isn't it? Similarly, the depletion of the quality of the air. Similarly, the increase of the water level in coastal areas, all are the facets of the climate change that has to be written. So see, as the sea level will rise, the climate due to the climate change, our coastal areas and especially the island nations, they are under threat. So see, lot of things are very simple over here. Like there is a loss of territory. Definitely, as sea level will rise, the land will endowed or submerged under the water. So that leads to a problem like nations Maldives, uh, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Tuvalu, Micronesia, Melanesia, Polynesia, these groups of islands, they are losing their territories. So the rate is mentioned as per the IPCC 2021 report, 3.7, approximately 3.7 millimeter per year. So this is one of the direct impact, loss of territory. Salt water intrusion, as the sea level will rise, salt water, saline water from the sea enters into the land. That salt water intrusion had its own problem. It leads to the soil salinization, soil alkalization, and definitely that affect the agriculture production as well. Extreme weather events, obviously. So this is a question of prelims this year as well. So the extreme weather events, as sea level will rise, the temperature will rise, the more cyclones will develop. Like cyclone Palm of 2015 um, affect nearly 60% of the GDP of the uh, Vanuatu island. So that basically leads to the more cyclone events over here. Economic losses, because tourism has undergoes loss, many beaches get undergo submergence, like it has happened in the many islands of the Hawaii. So sea land, the beaches undergo submergence. So moreover, it affects corals. That temperature get increased up, it affect the health of corals. It lead to coral bleaching. You know that due to the increase of the temperature, sea level, the ice will melt, sea level will rise, and that leads to the intrusion of the fresh water that kills the corals. So identity crisis. So these are the direct, you can say the impact of it. But what I mean to say, how you can make this answer different from others, right? So here the issues are loss of territories. So that is a one part. Salt intrusion, that is another part. Sea level rise affecting very existence of many island nations. So as it is written over here, so many things are directly written over here, but there are some important issues that need to be highlighted in this part. See, climate change and sea level rise. See, what are some special issues that can be written into this part? Number one is wet bulb temperature issue, that can be written. So what is wet bulb temperature? It is basically high temperature plus high humidity. like example of it is October heat in India. So that high temperature along with high humidity makes conditions unfavorable, because as the moisture content increase into air, the humidity level, it is at a cost of the oxygen molecule into the air. So it leads to decrease of O2 level, oxygen level into the air. You know, whenever water vapor will come, like this is a parcel of air. Whenever the H2 water vapor in a gas form comes, there are four existing gases here: nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide. It threw away the oxygen because that is a soft target for it. There is a double covalent bonding between oxygen molecules, oxygen atoms in oxygen molecule. That bonding is easily broken. Argon is already inert gas. It don't take part in chemical reaction. Carbon dioxide has a carbon that forms the strong bond. There is a triple covalent bond between the nitrogen atom. So nitrogen molecule is also difficult to break. Oxygen double atom are easily breakable by this latent energy which is carried by water vapor. So oxygen is thrown, water comes up. More water will come up, it will more throw the one molecule of oxygen. So it makes oxygen level less into the air. That's why there is a difficulty in the respiration. So it makes conditions unbearable. This is what called as wet bulb temperature. So dear, as this wet bulb temperature will increase, you know what would happen due to that? There is a difficulty in the survivability of some very sensible species which require a lot of oxygen. They undergoes threat. So that is a one major consequences. Secondly, as humidity level has risen up, it provide the latent heat factor as well. Next thing is latent heat is provided, and you know the latent heat, that is the engine of the tropical cyclone. So here this latent heat, it is actually engine of tropical cyclone. So these events will definitely rise up due to this latent heat factor. So this is a one thing that can be added into the answer. It will make your answer slightly different from other. Okay, see, dear, other important thing that can be addressed into this question, although that is not mentioned here anywhere into this explanation, but there is a one more thing. You know, there is a loss and damage principle. Loss and damage principle. What is it? You should have studied it. So that was put forward in the Warsaw Agreement of what? Of our UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So there are few protocols of this UNFCCC which became world famous. Like, you know that Kyoto Protocol was there. So very one important at the first protocol which was highlighted at the world level. Similarly, Copenhagen occurred, Bali summit, right? So similarly in the sequencing, there Doha Gateway of 2012, the one was the Warsaw Agreement, and it was of Warsaw Agreement of Warsaw Pact, it was of 2013. So in 2013 there, of this UNFCCC, you know, it's meeting held every year, annually it's meeting held. So in 2013 of this Warsaw Agreement, this principle was laid down, loss and damage principle, right? So what does it mean? Actually, it is damages. There's a difference in damage and damages. In a language of a law, damage means loss that you bear, but damages means compensation. So it was put forward by the island nations, a very important thing. Island nations. So these island nations, they come out with this theory that we have already suffered a loss due to the rise of the sea level. So our territory has already undergone submergence. So first of all, damages should be given to us. Remember, damages in a language of law, damages means compensation. So this theory was put forward by island nation countries in 2013 in this Warsaw Agreement. So dear, once you start this question, a direct question here. The sea level rise seems to be very simple, but these are the ways by which you can make your answer different from the answers of the other candidate. Like, this is the most important thing in this uh, answer. Loss and damage principle of UNFCCC. If that is highlighted, it makes an impression then and there. So examiner will mark your answer above average level once he see this loss and damage principle. Similarly, this wet bulb temperature, once you see that, your answers now excels. It is, you are ahead of the race in marks fetching, so you will extra fetch 1 or 2 marks in this answer. Otherwise, these are a very simple issues: the loss of territory, saltwater intrusion, every extreme weather, economic losses, identity crisis. We can expect that even a average candidate or a first time appearer in the UPSC mains will write all these issues. But frankly speaking, if you ask to me, even a school going student can also write these points. But as a serious UPSC candidate, unless and until you don't bring these technicalities, you will not fetch good marks. So this is how this answer should be addressed. An important part are these technical issues here. Okay. Now quickly moving toward the next part. See, second question. What are non-farm primary activities? Okay. So then there are these activities which are related to the physiographic features of the India, that is asked. And you have to justify it with the help of examples. So dear, the key theme of this question is non-farm primary activities. Okay. So dear, you know, agriculture is different from farming. As in our classes, we have discussed it time and again. In agriculture, there are two main sectors. One is the farming sector, and second is our non-farming sector. So this non-farming sector is what asked into your discussion. Non-farm sector. So the farming sector means growing of the crops. So it is related with something that is rooted into the soil. So that should be your artificially managed agriculture field. There you have planted, rooted something. Or non-farming sector, what does it mean? These are the allied sectors or related activities with that field. So necessity is this field. There should be some agricultural field. In that field, you are doing these activities, right? So if someone is, suppose, collecting timber from the forest, someone is cutting the trees in the open forest, you will not consider that as a farm, non-farm activity here. That comes under the forestry practices, lumbering practices, different type of the economic activities. But non-farm does mean in this agriculture field, some activities which are related here. These are non-farm activities. So in the non-farm activities, you can rear the cattle into it. You can take some birds into it. So what are the further subdivisions of it? One important sector is the dairy sector in this non-farming. Similarly, we have animal husbandry. This another part of this non-farm sector. Similarly, there we have here poultry. Similarly, we have here sericulture. Similarly, we have apiculture. Similarly, other issues like our pisciculture, aquaculture, mariculture. See, so there are so many things to write over here in this non-farming sector. You know, this non-farming sector is actually the backbone of our agriculture in Indian context. There is a unequal distribution of the agriculture field among the farmers of India, but these non-farming resources, assets, they are largely equally distributed. So earlier, our agriculture policies were mostly revolving around the farming sector. Like if insurance was given, so that was a fasal insurance. Insurance was for the crops. If interest subvention scheme is there, that is for the crops or agriculture field. Similarly, any type of a loan that has to be given, or any type of other benefit like Kisan credit card has to be given, they were for the farming sectors largely. So, and their benefits were taken by the large farmers. So it leads to the inter-farmer disparity. So those who were already rich, they became more rich. Those who were poor, they became further poor. It leads to inter-farmer disparity, inter-regional disparity, even within a region, intra-regional disparity it brings. So government has changes its attention, and now government is more concerned about non-farming sector. Because in one big village, you can expect that if there is a big jamidar, that jamidar also has a one cow or two cow or some cattle with him, and similarly the poor farmer also has a possession of goats, cattle, cows. So if this sector is focused more, it will really improve the conditions of uh, farmers of our India. These are actually the recommendations of the many reports, reports of the committees forward to the government of India. So this sector is relevant. So there are so many things here you can write. So dairy, where our milk giving cattle are reared in artificially managed agricultural field or related to that, like bovines, cows and buffaloes, they come here. In animal husbandry, we reared the cattle for other purposes as well, like for the skin purpose, meat purpose, hide purpose, right? So poultry, that is the rearing of your birds. So eggs are mostly taken from them. So sericulture, it is basically the rearing of the silkworms and the production of the silk. So main agriculture activity, and India has an advantage over here. India is the only country in the world which has all four varieties of the silkworms, right? So that is an advantage, and that depends upon the physiography of India. So these special issues has to be highlighted. Similarly, apiculture, the rearing of honey bees and production of honey. So these are related with the fishing activities, like aquaculture, that is for fishes, journal term for the fishes production. In the pisciculture, specifically saline fishes are targeted. In mariculture, it is marine means sea. So not only the fishes, even other resources, edible resources that you are getting from sea, like prawns, like crabs, like seaweeds, like salt, like algae, all are harvested into the mariculture. So artificially managed closed backwater bodies, there these are managed. So this is all about the non-farming sector. So you have to write about it, but look at the second part of the question, that is more appreciable. How the physiographic features of India are related with these non-primary activities. So dear, as I told you, these special issues has to be highlighted. So one important issue is the mountains of India. You know, physiographically we have divided our country into zones, like Great Mountain Belt of the north, the Great Northern Plains, the Peninsular Plateau, coastal plains, and island nation. So one island areas. So one important physiographic division is the mountainous region, and you should know that with height there is a decrease of the rainfall. So upper part of our mountains are largely dry parts. Okay, so as these are the dry parts, so our dwarfed varieties of cattle are reared over the height of the mountains. Moreover, you should have studied about one type of a nomadic herding that is very common into the hilly areas, transhumane. So dear, this word has to be written in this answer. Once you have written it, it is basically a vertical motion of the nomads or the tribes with change of season. So in summer they goes to the hilltop, in winter they comes to the bottom. Like some of the famous tribes of India, Gujar, Bakkarwal, Gujar tribe, Bakkarwal tribe, okay, Gadi tribe, Gujar Bakkarwal of Jammu Kashmir, Gadi tribe, Bhotia tribe, these are of Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh. Similarly, Lepcha tribe of Sikkim region. These are the famous transhumanes. Why they do transhumane? Because they have the cattle with them, ships, goats with them. So these ships and goats, they are reared up and down. It leads to the major non-farming activity into the hilly areas. This is how you can connect the physiography with non-farm activity, isn't it? Like pashmina, that is obtained from a goat. Many students think that it is obtained from sheep, but actually it is obtained from goat. That is world famous type of wool that we get from the goats of the Ladakh region, right? So dear, this has to be righted over here. Similarly, in the physiography there comes desert. So in the desert part, again we have a drought resistant varieties, drought kettles, right, of our cows, buffaloes, goats, sheep, like Nagori, a famous breed. Similarly, Bikaneri, Jaisalmeri, these are famous breeds of the cattles, right? So they are taken over there. So this is how the physiography is affecting the activities there. So again, the tribes of Rajasthan, Gujarat region, they are very famous for the cattle rearing. Moreover, see other important and relevant things. You know, India is a country which has more than 1500 plus plant varieties. Flowering plant, see that is important. Flowering plant varieties. So more than 1500 plants are present in India. So flower is there. That flower provide a very conducive environment for our the honeybees production. So see this part, as we have discussed there, that part, our apiculture part is very relevant here, because India has so many flowers due to the monsoonal climate, and that's why it attract a lot of butterflies, lot of honeybees, and they leads to the production of honeys in the country. So it is a issue. Similarly, in physiography, you can write about coastal areas. So as coastal areas are highlighted here, your all those sectors, PC culture, right? Mariculture, they became relevant over here. So they are promoted. India has a coastline of 11,000 kilometer dear now. You know, actually earlier it was 7,500. Like here it is written, the long coastline of 7,500 kilometer. It was 7,515 kilometer earlier, but last week or last week in 10-15 days before, Indian government has increased the coastline of India, and now it is 11,000 kilometer. So new data are saying we have a coastline of 11,000 kilometer. That long coastline is obviously one of the reason for promotion of these activities, isn't it? So we have a one national fisheries mission as well, national aquaculture mission as well. So these missions are promoting these activities. So they has to be connected with this question. So examples you have to cite. Okay. So pastoralism in arid regions of Rajasthan, camel, sheep, yak in Ladakh. So they basically affect it. Okay. Dear, then this is a question from the energy part. Explain briefly the ecological and economic benefit of the solar energy generation in India with again example. So see, so easy questions are at these times. So here the crux or the central theme is the solar energy. So definitely you have to start your answer with some of important data, like India has a commitment to achieve the net zero or carbon neutrality by 2070 as per the Paris Agreement. So in 2021 Glasgow Agreement, Indian government has released it 5 NDC, nationally determined contributions. We call them as the Panchamrit of India. So in that Panchamrit, one of the important target is to achieve carbon neutrality by 2017. So by 2070, we will be net zero emitter of the carbon. So solar energy plays a very important role over here. And we have a one new energy policy of 2015 that give a boost to this solar energy. So you can start with some historical background as well. We have a national solar mission of 2009, and that was revived as a new solar policy, new energy policy in 2015, where we set a target to make 100 gigawatt of solar energy by 2022. So we goes very close to that, and India is now a significant producer of the solar energy, right? Nearby 90 gigawatt of energy is produced by the solar. So definitely, what are the ecological benefit of it? This is a source of a clean energy, right? So that is a one of the economic benefit. So ecological benefit. Similarly, air pollution is reduced, land use efficiency is there. Like over hilltop, we can do, we can install our solar panels. So there is a rooftop solar energy production factor. So that is land use efficiency. Moreover, under many government schemes, government is promoting the installation of a solar plant into the agriculture field. So there government make a contract of 25 year with the farmer, and loan is also extended, cheap loan is also extended by the banks for that purpose. So definitely it is a one eco-friendly exercise. So economic benefits are there, so it gives you earning. Similarly, job creations, Riva Ultra Mega Solar Plant is one such there, right? Similarly, cost competitive, as it is cheaper as in a long run it is cheaper. In a short term it could be the costlier, but in a long run it is cheaper than our thermal plants, hydel plants. It leads to the empowerment of the rural areas, like PM Kusum is one such area, one such policy, isn't it? So direct question. Okay, now see the another one here from the geography section. What are tsunamis? This is the one part. How and where they are formed, this is the second part. What are the consequences, third part. Explain with examples. So entire question is revolving on the central theme of tsunami. So what is required? In the introduction section itself you should write what is tsunami, right? So tsunami is actually a long harbor wave, right? So this tsunami word is a Japanese word. How and where they are formed? So see, let's see this question, how to attempt it. So in the very first part you should write about the definition of the tsunami directly. So tsunami is a long harbor wave. So it is a Japanese word. They has coined the long harbor waves, this name. They called long harbor waves as the tsunami waves. So long harbor waves where wave height reaches to 20-30 meters and finally wave necessarily collapse to create a strong swash is called as tsunami. So that should be the introduction part of your answer. Similarly, you can start from some factual recent issues, like few days before in a Kamchatka peninsula of the Russia part, a big earthquake has hit that created a strong tsunami. So you can start from there as well. Recently in eastern Russia or Kamchatka peninsula of the Russia, a big earthquake had hit which has created the tsunami. Then you can start with this part. Tsunami is a long harbor wave. So there are some technical words written over here. One thing is long harbor wave height reaches to 20 to 30 meter in the height, and finally there is a collapse of a wave. It is, we called it as a wave break. So in the tsunami necessarily there is a wave break and a very strong swash is created. So what is these issues that has to be understood as per the context of the tsunami? So do you know, as this is the ocean bottom, let's imagine this is the ocean bottom, this is the water, oceanic water, and this is our, say, coastal area. So in the tsunami necessarily very high energy is supplied. Reason can be anything. It could be earthquake, it could be landslide at the cliff region, it could be iceberg collapse, it could be meteorite fall, it could be underwater volcanic event, it could be faulting underwater. Reason can be anything, but what is the crux? Very high energy is supplied to this water. So when high energy is supplied to the water starts oscillating up and down. The oscillation of water creates the wave. But issue in the tsunami, the wave base is very, very deep. This is what the difference between tsunami and the normal wave. Wave base is very, very deep. Wave base means maximum depth up to which water is oscillating up and down. So this water is oscillating up and down. So this entire water above, from there to there, is oscillating up and down. This is the big wave base. So in the open ocean, when the tsunami wave is there, it has a wavelength that is lambda. So this lambda is very large, right? And this wave height, it is h, represented by h, very small. Wave height means the maximum up and down displacement, vertical displacement. So this upper part of the wave is called as crust, like this is the normal sea level. We called it as crust, we called it as trough. So crust and trough, this height combinedly is called as wave height h. So in the open ocean, the tsunamis, there's a very less wave height but very long wavelength, isn't it? And once this wave approaches toward the coastline, its wavelength decreases, wave height increases. So dear, you should know the technicalities. I don't want to go into the detail, but there are relationship. The h means wave height, that is inversely related to the lambda wavelength, right? So if wavelength will be more, wave height will be less. Like suppose this is the normal sea level. So if this water rises, we call it crust trough this way. So let's say this is the wave height of crust and trough h, this is lambda. So dear, if this lambda will be more, it will be less, but if it will be less, it will be more. This is a relationship between wave height and the wavelength. Moreover, as the water is oscillating up and down, so there is something called as wave base. So let's say up to this part, the water is oscillating up and down, isn't it? This wave base, this part is called as wave base, represented by B. It also has a relationship with the lambda. Generally, wave base B is equal to half of lambda by 2. So if this lambda is at 20 meter, the wave base would be 10 meter, half of it. So as our wave approaches towards coastline, it definitely hit the bottom. So wave base keep on decreasing. So if wave base decreases, lambda decreases, and if lambda decreases, wave height should increase, isn't it? So our wave height keep on increasing. And there is something, one more thing called as wave steepness. Wave steepness. It is basically ratio between how high the wave is. So how high the wave is, wave height divided by lambda. This is what wave height plus wavelength, that is called as wave steepness. Means how high the wave has gone up. And if this ratio dear is more than 1:8, it leads to the collapse of the wave. What does it mean? Water level is rises up and then finally fall down. So it will not again rise up to create a wave. That is called as wave break. So in the tsunami, the necessarily wave break or a collapse has happened. So if you compare tsunami with some normal type of a wave, slight difference is there. Like see, this is the bottom of sea. As we approaches towards coastline, the bottom has decreases. So let's see, this is the bottom of sea. As we approaches towards coastline, bottom has decreases. So let's say it is filled with water. This is ocean, normal ocean. So in the normal waves, so it is a simple wave or normal wave, but this is a situation of tsunami. So in normal wave, less energy is available near to the water, but in tsunami, very high energy is supplied, right? So generally students think that it is only due to the earthquake, but no, it can be due to any other factors. It could be earthquake and any other factors also play the role. Underwater volcanism, landslide at the coast, iceberg collapse, meteorite fall, they can be the issues. So in the normal wave, this is how our waves are created, as these are the waves. So this is the wave base. Wave base. So as the wave approaches towards coast here, so wave base hit the bottom. So definitely as you go there, wave base decreases. That is at a cost of what? You know, at a cost of wavelength, because wavelength is half of the wave base. So if wave base here is say 10 meter, so wavelength should be 20 meter. But if here wave base between 5 meter, so wavelength will be double of that, 10 meter. So wavelength has decreases and it is at a further cost of wave height. Thus the height goes on increasing. So there is a chance that this wave collapse or may not collapse. But if it is collapsed, it is very closer to the coastline. So this water finally thrown toward the landward side, and we called it technically as swash. So weak swash is created over here. It is not a very strong swash in a normal wave. So if you are standing there, you will feel wave come, approaches towards you, hit your legs, pushes you forward, then goes back. But it is a bearable one. It is not very big wave or water or a swash that reaches towards your side. But look at tsunami, dear. This is the wave base, very close to the bottom because of very high energy. So in the open ocean, the wavelength is very much, wave height is less. But as it hit the coastline, now here in this condition, you can expect that wave has hit the wave bottom very far away from your coastline or shoreline. So it has lot of window left, lot of margin left to decrease its wavelength. So as it approaches, wavelength keep on decreasing, wave height keep on increasing, and finally this wave steepness, it became 1:20 and sometime more than that in our tsunami waves. So this height could be as high as 30 meter, imagine. 20 meter, 25, 30 meter. From so big height, the wave collapse, and finally it is a very, very strong swash that has created. So dear, huge volume of water is thrown toward the landward side. It do damage in the coastal areas. All infrastructure is blown away. Lot of saline water is thrown into the landward side. It submerges agriculture field, nearby water bodies. Even the land mass is also under submersion. So it has its own consequences. So consequences are simple, but you can start this question from that recent Kamchatka, the Russian eastern part of Russia where tsunami is created, and you can write some historical data, 2004. Even an average student can also write that. But these are some technicalities which can separate your answer from other candidates. So if you make these diagrams and show how it is different from normal one, you have some extra edge over other candidates. So you will fetch 2-3 extra marks and your job is done. Okay. So dear, then smart city, that is a society part. So I think we have covered the geography questions here. Globalization, society parts. This is also history question. 5-year plans, a sandwich part of society economics, French Revolution. Okay, give a geographical explanation of the distribution of offshore oil results of the world. It is a world economic geography question. So basically offshore, onshore. So offshore means slightly away from the shore, like on the continental shelf, in the open oceans. So dear, this is actually a factual question where you have to locate or trace the offshore reserves of the world. So again, in this question, there is a scope of map making. Like you can draw the map of the world and you can show the offshore reserves which are away from the coastline. Like Bombay High can be shown over here. Similarly, if this is the South America part, so there is North America. So this part is one of the main offshore reserve where countries like Venezuela has a reservoir. So our ONGC Videsh Limited is, see, in this question, important thing is wherever in the offshore drilling our ONGC is engaged, you should definitely write those names, right? Other names, there is a liberty, you can skip them. But wherever our ONGC is involved, these should be definitely written into your answer. Like here in this Gulf of Mexico part, now America, Donald Trump has changed its name as a Gulf of America. So although it is still known as the Gulf of Mexico. So this is one such big area where our ONGC is engaged. Similarly, in upper part, the Siberian coastline and the shelf over there, shelf of Arctic Sea, that is another area. Similarly, toward this side, eastern side of Russia, where our Sakhalin Island is present. Again, ONGC is involved over there. South China Sea, East China Sea, above Vietnam. India once start exploring the crude oil from that South China Sea as well in company with the Vietnam. But that issue comes into the International Court of Justice because China take it to there. China literally threatened the engineers over there, and then there is a backup. These are the geopolitical issues, but these are offshore reserves, right? So these questions has to be written with the examples. So dear, then this is artificial intelligence part, so sandwich part of science and the remote sensing. Okay, see another important one. This is about the plate tectonics. So read the question. Again, it is a question where you can fetch marks because this question provide you liberty to make the diagrams. So how the shapes and sizes. So remember two things. One is shape is changing, second is size is changing. So like India. So the size of India has undergone increase up since the Cretaceous time period. Earlier the peninsula India was existing, but now size is increasing. So northern India, where we are standing in Delhi now, and the entire Himalayan states, they are of the later creation. So it's not the size of India has increased up, definitely. So size is also changing, shape is changing. Of whom? Of the ocean basins and continents. So size is also changing. Like Africa, its size has changed because of the divergent plate boundary beneath the Arabian Peninsula gets separated. So it leads to the creation of the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, and then the Africa shape has changed. Even here, it is written ocean basin, means bottom of ocean has also undergoes change. So very good example is the present day Atlantic Ocean, you know. So present day Atlantic Ocean is spreading, right? So that's why the shape is changing. It leads to the change of the shape of the continents as well. So that has to be highlighted into this question. So see, what is the good answer of this question? The central theme is revolving around the tectonic movement. So in the beginning, you should explain or mention what are the tectonic movements. So if one answer can start from a plate or a tectonic plate is a part of the lithosphere, a section of a lithosphere which is floating over the viscous asthenosphere. You can start it by this way. You can directly start with tectonic movements. These are the endogenetic movements, means below the surface they are acting. Endogenetic movements which are operating over the earth due to the internal energy, and these leads to the change over the surface of the earth. So that can be the another starting of this question. Similarly, you can start from continent and oceans. Like you can directly start from the India. 220 million year ago, India was at the subpolar location of a lesser size, peninsular India. Northern India and Himalayas, they were not existing. But in a course of time, due to the tectonic movement or the crustal masses movement, India drifted northward, which leads to the creation of northern plains and the Himalayas. So size changes, continent size changes, the sea basin also undergoes change. So in the introduction part, you can write the crux of the answer, right? So this way you can start. Moreover, let me give you one more introduction part of it. You can start. Present day Atlantic Ocean is changing its size due to the sea floor spreading, because it lies over the divergent plate boundaries, and endogenetic tectonic movements are pushing apart the floor of the Atlantic Ocean. See, in this introduction, you have mentioned the central theme of the answer. So as you have written it, it put some extra impression, extra positive impression the examiner. He get impressed over here itself and can give you the marks, very good marks, extraordinary marks, right? So these are the ways by which you can write the introduction part of your answer. Okay, so you have to justify that. So our movements are taking place. So what are the causes of movement? It should be the one part of the answer, the beginning part of answer. Then you can write the tectonic movement leads to the three type of plate boundaries: the convergent plate boundary, divergent plate boundary, and parallel plate boundary or transform plate boundary. These all three boundaries leads to the continent and ocean basin changes. So here there is a need of a making of a diagram of convergent, divergent, and parallel plate boundaries. Like any example you can cite, right? You can cite an example of the seafloor spreading of Atlantic Ocean. Even you can cite an example of a Gulf of California. You can mention the San Andreas fault there, how Gulf of California is formed because it leads to the change of the shape of the Northern America. So these issues can be highlighted, and you can make your answer different from others, right? So there is a utmost scope of a map making here, diagram making here. So it is a very marks fetching question. Okay, dear. Similarly, see, discuss the distribution density of population in the Ganga river basin with special reference to land, soil, and water masses. This is a question which comes from the demographic geography. You should know that the Ganga river basin, the Ganges plain, these are the most densely populated areas or the plains of the world. So the density of population is very high in Bihar, in West Bengal, in Uttar Pradesh, right? So question is asking, distribution is asked. So it is basically intra-regional and inter-regional population density distribution in Ganga river basin, and with special reference to land, soil, and the water resources. So dear, what is the good answer of this question? The good answer is you should write the inter-regional distribution in Ganga river basin. So one is the very densely populated region. So see how I am structurizing this answer. If you structurized your answer by this way, definitely it make your answer good. Similarly, second one, densely populated area or the region. Third, you can write moderately populated area this way. We cannot write the sparsely populated area because it is a Ganges river basin that don't have a sparse population. So by these three divisions you can now write, right? And you can connect it with soil, land. So see here towards this side, first you can make a table, you can write a region over here, what are the regions of it, then you can connect it with, see what is asked in the question, land, soil and water. So here you can write soil and land resource. Here you can write the available water resource there, and this way you can justify your answer. So like let me explain the first part over here. Same exercise you can repeat in second and third part. Very densely populated. So here the one important reason is none other than your Sundarban Delta. See that one, right? So that Sundarban Delta of see it is Ganga river basin. So nowhere it is says that in India or in Bangladesh. So there is a liberty to go into the Bangladesh as well. Understand? So Sundarban Delta of India and extension in India is a one very densely populated region. Second, over here you can write the Hooghly river basin. So along the Hooghly river, this area is again a very densely populated area. Third, you can write about central Bihar. That area also comes in this part. These are excessively dense populated area. You can check the census data of 2011 and you can write over here the density of population is more than 900 persons per square kilometer. You can write it like where population density is more than 900 persons per square kilometer. You can write over here in densely populated where population density is 700 to 900. This way you can categorize your answer. Similarly, moderately 500 to 700. This way you can categorize your answer. Then the soil and the land resources. So how to write over here? Which type of soil is present? The dear Khadar or Bangar? The Khadar soil. Right? Most fertile soil of India. So Khadar soil is available and that is rejuvenated after every year. So rivers, they bring this Khadar soil and it became very, very fertile. So as it is very fertile, so it leads to the more agriculture production and a population density. Very simple. And water reserves, water resources. Here you can write an example of Hooghly river. Here you can write an example of a Theni river, Tista river, Mahananda river. Here you can even write an example of a Damodar river. All these rivers provided the fresh water that is very conducive for the jute production. That is very, very favorable for the other crops, vegetable production, even industrial growth. So Chota Nagpur plateau has the industrial hub of India due to this factor as well. So Britishers, they come over here, it has a historical factor, you know that, but in the question, soil, land and the water resources asked. So this way you can structureize your answer. So in the densely populated area, you can write Purvanchal area of Uttar Pradesh. Like one of the reason is your eastern UP. That can be written. Similarly, the other area, you can write the eastern Bihar. That is another densely populated area. And in this moderately dense, you can write northern Bihar. So northern Bihar or the Mithilanchal area, that is in the moderately dense area because that has suffered from the waterlogging. So little bit hardness over there. That has a terai type of the climate. So moisture, vector-borne disease are there. So that is a reason which expels the population out. So dear, if by this way you structureize your answer, is not it is something extra that you are doing in your answer? No, question is how you can inculcate into your answer. in a very short time. You can do it if you have a very history of a practice. So if you're continuously practicing your answers for last 1 year, rigorously writing the answers daily, so by that way you can inculcate these things directly into your examination. So this single question makes the difference. So next, coming to 3 questions, you have already a positive impression on the mind of the examiner, so you will be ahead of the race. So this is how you can structureize your answer. Okay, otherwise this is a very simple question. Even 10th standard student will also write the answer, right? But these are the ways you can make your answer different from other candidates. So dear, this is all about the geography questions.